When you go back out to your garden to check on your caterpillars, there are a few different kinds of data that we'll need to collect in order to answer our research question. I'm here in the experiment I set up at Crystal Cove State Park to show you how you can collect data in your garden. If you remember from the last few sessions, you picked two different plants with some adaptation that varies between them, which you predicted might affect how well the birds could eat the caterpillars from those plants. We now want to go back to those same two types of plants where you place your caterpillars to collect some data. To help keep track of all the caterpillars, let's look at each plant type one at a time and record the data for one plant species before moving on to the other one. So for example, here in Crystal Cove, I wanted to compare plants with big leaves to plants with small leaves. So I placed my caterpillars on bush sunflower and buckwheat. So I'm going to collect data on all of my buckwheat caterpillars to start, which is this plant right behind me. The first kind of data we need to record is the name of each plant species. Like I mentioned, I'm starting with buckwheat, so I'll write buckwheat in my notebook. Next, I want to write down the adaptation that this plant has that we're comparing in our research question. So I'll write down that this plant has small leaves. Now, I want to check on all the caterpillars that I placed on the buckwheat plants. So I placed 5 on this one buckwheat plant, so I'm going to start by counting them all up and recording the total number of caterpillars to make sure that I got them all. Then I want to see how many have bird attack marks. So how can you tell if a bird has attacked your clay caterpillar? You're going to look for deep scratches, pieces missing, or dents in your caterpillars. Here's some more pictures of bird attack marks so you can see some examples. You'll want to record in your science journal how many of the caterpillars on each plant species had attack marks. So for example, I found 2 caterpillars with marks on this buckwheat plant. It's also always a good idea to record any other notes of things you notice in your science journals as you're collecting data. If a caterpillar fell off of the plant, or if you notice any signs of the plant being eaten, if the plant looks dead or dying, make a note of that in your data sheet, anything that stands out to you or things that could affect our results. Once you've counted the caterpillars with attack marks for one plant species, so all of your buckwheat plants, for example, and written down your observations, repeat the process for the caterpillars you placed on the second plant species. On the next 2 slides, you'll find a list of the types of data that you will need to record and an example of how to set up a data sheet in your science journal to record all that data.